Let's engage in a thought experiment. Consider an object streaking through the blackness of our cosmic neighborhood at over 124,000 miles per hour. What if that traveler isn't just a stray piece of celestial debris? What if it represents something far more profound? What if we are witnessing a nuclear-propelled vessel from a distant star? As a theoretical physicist, my career has been dedicated to exploring the boundaries of the possible. And I can state this with certainty. When you observe something with the mass of a small moon, billions of tons of material being propelled through the cosmos at speeds exceeding a rifle shot, you must acknowledge that you are witnessing an event that is truly extraordinary. An event that shatters our current understanding. It blazed past the orbit of Mars with an astonishing velocity. But this is where the narrative takes a sharp turn into the bizarre. At the very moment this interstellar visitor, designated 3 I divided by Atlas, made its closest pass to the red planet, NASA's public data stream was abruptly cut. Total silence. The official reason provided was a government shutdown, a matter of bureaucratic process. But for someone who has devoted their life to deciphering the universe's grand design, the timing of this blackout feels too perfect to be a simple coincidence. Now, a growing chorus of physicists and astronomers worldwide is starting to pose difficult questions. What might the space agency be concealing? The potential answers are nothing short of staggering. You must understand, this is not just another asteroid aimlessly adrift in the void. This is an anomaly, an object that has broken every rule we have for interstellar travelers, and it is drawing nearer. The true peril isn't in what NASA is prepared to disclose, it's in what the evidence is screaming at us. Let's dissect the timing of this information blackout more closely. The public story was simple, a temporary suspension of non-essential government operations. Yet, what I and many others find deeply concerning is the remarkable convenience of that shutdown. Researchers across the planet, from European observatories to Japanese research institutes, were poised to receive a flood of crucial data. They were anticipating high-resolution images, spectral analyses, and telemetry data information that could finally resolve the most fundamental questions about 3I divided by Atlas. What is its composition? Is it a solid body? What is its precise geometry? What kind of materials are venting from its surface? But instead of answers, they were met with a wall of denial error messages and firewalled databases. This blackout effectively drew a curtain over the single most important phase of this object's journey through our solar system. As a physicist, this is what I find so disturbing. The fragments of data we did manage to collect, both before and after this convenient silence, are profoundly strange. They generate more questions than they answer. The available images point to an object that is distinctly elongated, stretched out in a form reminiscent of the notorious cigar-shaped visitor, Oumuamua. But there's an even stranger characteristic. For an object of its immense size and obvious activity, it is missing the brilliant, glowing tail, the coma that we would absolutely demand to see from a massive comet. In its place is a diffuse, almost ethereal cloud of ionized gas. A cloud that behaves in ways our physical models cannot begin to predict. This is not a conventional cometary coma, nor is it a tail. It is something for which we have no precedent. This enigmatic shroud of gas absorbs and re-emits light in patterns that defy our comprehension. Looking at this data, I am compelled to ask, could we be observing some form of advanced protective shielding? A deliberate, manufactured barrier? The object's trajectory alone communicates something incredible. This visitor is traveling within a mere 5 degrees of Earth's own orbital plane. Pause to consider the implications of that. In all my years studying celestial mechanics, I have learned that interstellar objects should, by all rights, arrive from random vectors plunging in from high above or deep below the plane of our solar system. But this alignment is almost unnervingly precise. But what truly captivates me as a theoretical physicist is this. 3I divided by Atlas is journeying directly along the ecliptic plane. This is the cosmic superhighway upon which all of our system's planets orbit the Sunday. Think about that. The statistical likelihood of an interstellar object randomly charting a course with this exact alignment is infinitesimally small. It's almost a statistical impossibility. As my colleague, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, has noted, this path isn't merely unusual, it's suspiciously perfect. This object didn't execute a simple flyby of Mars. Its calculated path will bring it perilously close to the gas giant Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. So, to summarize, we have an object from another star system which happens to be on a trajectory that allows it to encounter multiple major planets in our solar system, all within a remarkably short period. When I run the numbers, when I calculate the combined probability of its precise alignment, this specific timing, and these sequential planetary encounters, the odds are staggering. Based on Loeb's meticulous calculations, we are dealing with a probability of less than 1 in a million. In my decades of analyzing cosmic events, I can assure you, this is no common wanderer drifting aimlessly through space. The most critical question we now face is whether we are seeing a bizarre fluke of nature or something far more disquieting, a sophisticated piece of extraterrestrial engineering. And this is what deeply troubles me, that conveniently timed data blackout during the Mars approach has deprived us of the very information we need to answer that question. What if the object's seemingly impossible mass is the true reason for this veil of secrecy? As someone who has spent a lifetime studying the fundamental laws of physics, I can tell you something vital. Our entire model of the cosmos is founded on rules, on physical principles that celestial bodies are expected to follow. Comets act in predictable ways. Asteroids conform to known patterns. But 3I divided by Atlas doesn't just challenge these rules. It completely shatters them. There are no fewer than 7 documented anomalies associated with this object that have left scientists around the globe utterly perplexed. These anomalies elevated from a simple curiosity to something that requires our immediate and focused concern. Unlike the elongated Oumuamua that fascinated us years ago, or the more conventional comet Borisov that behaved as expected, this visitor defies every category we have. It occupies a class of its own. Allow me to detail the first red flag, and I assure you it is nothing short of extraordinary, its seemingly impossible mass. We are discussing an object that weighs in at over 73 trillion pounds. To give you a sense of scale, 3I divided by Atlas is approximately 6 million times more massive than SpaceX's Starship, the most powerful rocket ever built by humanity. When researchers at Harvard calculated this astonishing figure, they stumbled upon something that shouldn't be possible. Even though we can clearly see this object venting significant quantities of gas and dust materials that should function like natural thrusters, pushing it off course, its trajectory remains almost entirely unchanged. It proceeds on its path as if nothing is happening. Now, in my years of working with celestial mechanics, I've learned that when comets expel gas, they behave like leaking balloons. They wobble, they drift, their paths are noticeably altered. But 3I divided by Atlas plows ahead with a kind of grim determination, as if it possesses some form of internal guidance system correcting its course. The implications are breathtaking. We are observing an object with such colossal mass, such overwhelming inertia, that these powerful jets of gas and dust are barely able to nudge it. And this is where the puzzle becomes truly mind-bending. When I calculate the known density of interstellar space, when I examine the distribution of loose, rocky material drifting between the stars, there simply isn't enough raw material available to naturally form and launch an object of this magnitude into our solar system. It breaks the mathematics of cosmic debris formation. This leads us to the second profound anomaly: the total lack of smaller related objects. As a physicist who has studied the statistical distribution of matter in space, I can tell you that if nature were capable of creating interstellar rocks of this incredible size, we should be detecting hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller examples for every giant one. Avi Loeb carefully analyzed the statistics. Based on our knowledge of matter drifting through the interstellar void, we should have observed a steady stream of smaller interstellar visitors passing through our cosmic neighborhood over the last decade. But we haven't, not even remotely. It's analogous to discovering a massive boulder sitting alone in a vast, empty field with no pebbles, no gravel, no smaller stones to be found anywhere. This pattern strongly implies that 3I divided by Atlas was not formed through any natural geological process that we currently comprehend. The third red flag is a source of absolute fascination for me: its bizarre chemical composition. Initially, scientists detected cyanide and carbon monoxide, which are compounds commonly observed in comets. Nothing unusual there. But then they found something else, something completely unexpected. The spectral signature of the dust cloud surrounding the object reveals an environment that is extraordinarily rich in complex silicate minerals. These are materials that are formed in warm, rocky environments, possibly on the surface of a terrestrial planet, not unlike Mars. They do not form in the frigid depths of interstellar space where comets are born. It's as if a massive piece of another world was violently sheared off and flung across the cosmos directly at us. Fourth, and this truly seized my attention, the object displayed what I can only term an unnatural resilience. On September 25th, a coronal mass ejection, essentially a catastrophic solar storm, erupted from our sun and slammed directly into 3I divided by Atlas with immense force. As someone who has studied the fragile composition of comets, I fully expected this bombardment of charged particles to have a devastating impact. We anticipated fragmentation, disintegration, perhaps a violent outgassing event. But when we conducted our follow-up observations, we found nothing of the kind. There was no breakup. There was no sudden explosive formation of a tail. There was only a gradual, almost controlled-looking expansion of its outer gaseous envelope. It behaves as if it were constructed from materials vastly more durable than the porous ice and loose rock that typically make up comets. The fifth anomaly is, from a physics perspective, perhaps the most perplexing of all: its extreme light polarization characteristics. Allow me to clarify what this means. When sunlight reflects off the dust particles that surround a typical comet, that light becomes polarized in a predictable fashion. Every single comet we have ever studied in our entire solar system exhibits what we term positive polarization when viewed from wide angles. It is a universal signature, but 3I divided by Atlas displays extreme negative polarization. This is not just a minor deviation in the data. This represents a fundamental contradiction of everything we thought we understood. It signifies that the dust particles enveloping this object are composed of something radically different from anything native to our solar system. These particles might possess incredibly complex internal structures or highly unusual shapes, perhaps constructed from materials humanity has never before encountered. The sixth anomaly concerns its mathematically precise trajectory. As we've already covered, its perfect alignment with the orbital plane of our solar system represents a probability of roughly 1 in 50,000. When you then incorporate its perfectly timed encounters with both Mars and Jupiter, the mathematical probability plummets to less than 1 in a million. As someone who has consulted on spacecraft trajectories, I can tell you something remarkable. From an engineering standpoint, this is the exact flight path you would design for an interplanetary probe that was intended to survey multiple worlds with maximum efficiency. It's almost a textbook maneuver. Finally, we come to the 7th anomaly, and this one sends a chill down my spine. Its strangely elongated configuration. Just like Oumuamua before it, 3I divided by Atlas appears to be dramatically stretched out like a cigar. The issue, as a physicist, is that this is simply not a shape that gravitational forces produce naturally. When objects cool and rotate in space, they collapse into spheres, or at the very least, slightly flattened spheroids. This is fundamental physics. A long, thin shape is inherently unstable for any natural celestial body. But you know what it's incredibly efficient for? An interstellar spacecraft. An elongated design would serve to minimize the risk of catastrophic collisions with microscopic dust and debris during high-speed travel between the stars. Now, any one of these anomalies, taken in isolation, would represent a fascinating scientific puzzle. But when I step back and consider all 7 of them together, when I look at the complete pattern that is emerging from the data, I find myself deeply unsettled. The unavoidable conclusion is this: those scientists who persist in claiming this is merely a natural object have a colossal amount of explaining to do. But there is an even more unsettling theory that is gaining traction, one that suggests something almost unimaginable. What if this isn't a rock at all? What if it isn't even a comet? What if it's cargo? Consider this. What is the most effective way to hide a single tree? You put it in a forest. So what would be the most clever way to disguise an alien probe as it traversed our solar system? You would design it to look almost exactly like a comet. Almost, but not perfectly. This is the core idea behind what researchers are now terming the Trojan horse theory. And I have to admit, as more and more anomalies stack up, this hypothesis is gaining serious scientific consideration. The perfect camouflage, as my colleague Avi Loeb has theorized, would be to create an object that seems predominantly natural on a casual glance, but is just different enough that detailed scientific analysis would eventually uncover its true artificial nature. It's an ingenious design that would allow it to drift silently across the galaxy for eons, avoiding immediate detection whenever it enters a new star system. Let that idea sink in for a moment. If an advanced extraterrestrial intelligence wished to conduct a systematic exploration of our galaxy, dispatching millions of autonomous probes would be the most logical and efficient strategy. These probes could quietly gather data for millennia, drifting through the darkness between stars, occasionally passing through systems like ours to observe planetary conditions, log detailed measurements, and perhaps even transmit their findings back to their creators across the vastness of space. In my years of contemplating interstellar exploration, I've come to believe that the 5-degree orbital plane alignment we're observing would be no coincidence at all. It would be a deliberate engineering decision, carefully calculated to allow the probe to efficiently survey multiple planets during a single pass through the system. Its incredible resilience when struck by that massive solar storm, that's precisely what we would expect if the object were built from advanced metamaterials far surpassing anything in humanity's current technological capabilities. And that bizarre light polarization signature that contradicts all known natural comets, that would simply be an unavoidable consequence of its exotic artificial construction, a telltale fingerprint of its manufactured origin. The implications of what we are witnessing leave me genuinely shaken. If this does prove to be an artificial probe, we are forced to confront a chilling reality. We have absolutely no idea what it was designed to do. As someone who has dedicated his entire career to understanding the cosmos, I find myself wondering, Are we observing a benign surveyor peacefully documenting our planetary system? Or could its motives be far darker, more calculated? Think about that staggering 73 trillion pound mass again. That kind of weight doesn't exist without a purpose. It could be concealing a payload, perhaps an entire fleet of smaller reconnaissance craft awaiting deployment. Or maybe a power source, a reactor system engineered to function over geological timescales. We are not talking about dead weight. This represents engineering on a scale that dwarfs anything humanity has ever even imagined. Yet, there is another hypothesis emerging from the scientific community that is even more revolutionary in its scope. Dr. Susanne Falsner in Germany has been running extensive computational models that suggest something extraordinary. What if massive interstellar wanderers like 3I divided by Atlas actually function as cosmic catalysts for the formation of worlds? Her research indicates something astonishing. When young stellar systems gravitationally capture these enormous visitors, they can dramatically shorten the timeline of planet creation. Instead of waiting millennia for dust grains to slowly clump together, entire worlds could coalesce rapidly around these pre-existing massive cores. If her models are correct, the consequences would shake the very foundations of planetary science. The gas giants in our own system, Jupiter perhaps, or even the very ground beneath our feet here on Earth, might contain materials delivered by similar interstellar travelers that wandered into our infant solar system billions of years ago. Seen through this lens, 3I divided by Atlas is transformed from a potential threat into something far more profound, a primordial architect of planetary systems. But this raises a haunting question. Could it be positioning itself to construct something entirely new right here in our own cosmic backyard? Now, pay close attention because this detail is crucial. While 3I divided by Atlas barrels onward through space, something unexpected is occurring. Its velocity is increasing. At this moment, it's tearing through the void at roughly 82,000 miles per hour. But gravitational acceleration will boost that to nearly 100,000 miles per hour as it approaches our sunday. When you couple that velocity with such tremendous mass, you are looking at kinetic energy on a truly apocalyptic scale. If this object were to strike anything substantial, the resulting devastation would be beyond comprehension. While current projections do not suggest an imminent collision, as a physicist, I am keenly aware that comets have a disturbing tendency to fragment unexpectedly or have their paths altered by violent gas eruptions. With an object this unpredictable and this massive absolute certainty about its future course is simply not possible. Our best remaining chance for clear answers lies with the European Space Agency's fleet of spacecraft. While NASA's observation network was conveniently offline, ESA's Mars Express Orbiter and Trace Gas Orbiter remained on duty. Most importantly, the JUICE mission, specifically designed for Jupiter exploration, is projected to cross paths with 3I divided by Atlas in November of 2025. The transmission delay means we will have a long wait for that critical data. But when it finally arrives, those measurements could definitively reveal whether this object possesses anomalous surface temperatures, thermal emissions, or an internal structure that natural formation processes simply cannot explain. What truly frightens me isn't any one particular explanation. What genuinely terrifies me as a physicist is not debating individual theories or picking apart isolated data points. It's watching how every single piece of evidence systematically rules out natural explanations, forcing us toward a conclusion that challenges the very core of our understanding. The window of opportunity is closing with alarming speed. Our final moments to study this phenomenon are slipping away faster than than we can comprehend. Here is the sobering reality we now face. Every hypothesis, every calculation, every competing theory ultimately leads to one inescapable truth. We are running out of time. 3. I divided by Atlas is not waiting for us. It is not slowing down to accommodate our curiosity. It is locked on an unyielding trajectory that will soon carry it beyond the reach of humanity's observational power forever. Mark your calendars for December 19th, 2025. On that day, it will make its closest approach to our planet at a distance of roughly 167 million miles. I know that sounds incredibly far, but on the grand cosmic scale, this is our last chance for detailed observation. This is humanity's final front row seat before it accelerates away, vanishing back into the infinite, silent expanse between the stars. Whatever secrets this object holds, whether we are witnessing a singular natural event, a cosmic seed for planetary creation, or genuine proof of extraterrestrial engineering, we have mere weeks remaining to uncover those answers. Once this crucial moment is gone, it will become just another unsolved cosmic mystery, an enigma forever lost to the void. Research teams around the globe are locked in a desperate race, aiming every available telescope at this target, frantically gathering every photon of data before our chance disappears completely. But here is the thought that haunts me. What if the most vital information has already been collected and is being intentionally kept from public view? That inexplicable data blackout during the Mars encounter continues to cast a long shadow of doubt over everything we think we know. What strikes me most deeply is how this one object has forced us to seriously entertain scenarios that, until very recently, were confined to the realm of science fiction. The sheer weight of these unexplained characteristics has crossed a critical line where even the most skeptical and conservative scientists are starting to ask profoundly uncomfortable questions about humanity's actual place in the universe. In statistics, we have a concept known as a black swan event. It describes an occurrence so improbable that it forces us to completely rebuild our fundamental assumptions about reality. 3, I divided by Atlas, represents a black swan of truly cosmic proportions. Regardless of whether the final analysis confirms a natural or an artificial origin, it is already proven irrefutably that interstellar visitors can be vastly more massive, incomprehensibly more complex, and profoundly more mysterious than our models ever predicted. So, allow me to put this final question directly to you. Is 3I divided by Atlas a once-in-a-generation natural marvel that we are privileged to witness? Or does it represent tangible evidence that intelligent observers from beyond our world are watching us? If you believe humanity has the right to know the complete truth, whatever that truth may be, show your support by clicking the like button and subscribe for continuing coverage as this extraordinary story continues to unfold.